Hey YouTube, it's JB Dillon. Today we're looking at a 1949 Silvertone, catalog number 9000. This is All-American 5, I believe. This was a local purchase. It's even got the back. Ooh, the back. Unfortunately, the silverfish have kind of gotten to the identifying marks here. But, yeah. Someone's been in here before, because obviously they wouldn't have had safety screws on this thing in 1948. And there was stuff rattling around inside, and the cord definitely has seen better days. There's a really nice chooch in here somewhere. I gotta find it for y'all, because it's pretty classy. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's some choice insulation there. Definitely going to want to do something with that, so it's definitely getting a new cord. Anyways, let's stick it on the dim bulb tester and see what it does. Okay, let's plug it in and see what happens. Well, we got a little bit of action from the bulb there. Das ist gut. Yeah. There's your typical bad filter hum. Also like that loose tuning capacitor there. That's pretty cool. Alrighty. Let's crack her open. Nothing like finding a wasp nest in there. That's what the noise was, clinking around. I'm thinking that's been evacuated for some time. Ah, the things you find. Racetrack looks intact, although there might look like there'd be a break there. Blah, 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 blah. Can't talk this morning. Alright, let's pop them safety screws out. Well now, looks like there was a whole family of them living at this thing at one point. Yeah, buddy. This one's still attached. We don't really see mud nests out here that much. This one's going to be fun to detach because that one's just wrapped around the wire there. So we just chiseled her off and eventually she came apart. This must have been a long time ago because those little hornet bodies in there are pretty well petrified. It may have been that they occupied this thing and then it got put away out in a shed. For best reception, always use the recommended Silvertone aerial kit. Very cool that's there. Alright, let me clean up the wasp nest and then we'll take a look underneath. So here's your typical All-American 5. It's got your main cardboard paper tube capacitor for your electrolytic, your couplings, all of which are in varying degrees of degradation, boiling away, ready to short and blow the thing up. So then we come back up top here, and we see that all the little rubber grommets that hold the tuning condenser are dead. So we need to find replacements for those too, because they have to isolate this from the chassis in order for it to function correctly, since this is a hot chassis. Okay, well, let's see what's going to be involved in getting that tuner remounted. I think I can use some turntable motor grommets. I think that'll work nicely. The fun part of all this is that we'll need to dismount the power switch volume control, because as you can see, one of the mounts is directly underneath it, and the other two are sitting up top, relatively accessible. So I'm sure they didn't think this thing would be in use 70 plus years later So that wasn't really a concern when they built it. See, if I pull that out, we can get that just aside enough to get to that tuner mount down there. So we're going to go ahead and dismount that and clean the rubber out, and then we'll see if the phono mounts I have will work. So we got the screw removed, and we got the bottom half of the mount removed. You can see that it's not really there anymore. And then the top side is supposed to have some spacing to it too. So let's flip that up there. See, that chunk of rubber is still there, and it's really not. So let me show you what I'm going to try to use. These are motor mounts from Gary's store at VM Audio Enthusiast. This is the part number 2773. And they're a phono motor mount with a straight opening. I'm going to see if I can make these work, because these would be ideal for this type of mount. So here's the mount that I've separated from the old rubber, which is down there. And so we're going to get this fit inside the chassis, and then I'm going to insert the spacer inside of there, and then hopefully we'll get this thing mounted. And we got 2 more to do, but that's not hard. There it is, worked into the hole. I think that was the hardest part, was trying to work it in the hole. But she's in there. I'm going to make sure it's clean up top, because I don't think I got it all the way through. She's pretty close. I need to work around that edge a little bit more to get that in there, but that requires 2 hands. So we'll finish this one up and mount it. So we got our sleeve in there now. And now we got our screw in. And you can see there from the side that it's flush. We flip this back up. We see that it's got the tuner set nice as it should be, nice and isolated. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the other 2, and then we'll move on to replacing the filter. Alright, I got the second one in there and the third one out. That's the last one, the third one, which is going to be a bit tricky, because as you can see, there's very limited space to work. But I still got to try to get the grommet in there, and then once we're done with that, we can get everything remounted. Alright, I had to fight it a little bit, but we got it in there. So we just need to put the screw in and then tighten all of them down. Alright, so we got all 3 of them mounted. And we can see that the tuner is now sitting the correct distance from the chassis, and it's isolated from the chassis. Did a meter test just to make sure. And so what you want to do is take your own meter, and you want to touch between the tuner body and the main chassis. Bear with me a second. And there can't be a short there, so we're going to hang this on the body here. We're going to touch here, and as we can see, it is infinite. So if you see any kind of resistance there, that's like, a couple ohms or something, you ain't done your job right. So the tuner has to be isolated from the chassis in order to work. But now that we've done that, we can get focused on replacing the capacitors and things, because that's simple. Here's the old one I removed. It's just stuck in a bracket here. And the removal of the bracket will give us lots of room to put a terminal strip or something to house them there. But it's 30, 50, 20, so that's pretty straightforward. Rarely ever do you see more than 80 microfarad in these designs. And the rectifiers say, oh, you're not supposed to go over 50 microfarads, and well, it's got an inrush resistor, so it usually doesn't matter. But you could put 100s in here and it probably wouldn't care. But we'll stick to close to what we have. And I think I have a terminal strip or 2 I can use in place of this. These are just bent over from the top, I believe. Let's take a look, see if I can even see it there with the speaker in the way. Nope, can't really. Can't really see where it's at. Let's make everyone dizzy. It's probably underneath that transformer there. I could move the speaker out the way, but I think what instead I'll do is I'll just nick it and then pull the pieces out, and then we'll just drill and start a new terminal strip mount from there. And then we'll get the capacitors mounted up. Now alternatively, I could just attach them to the points right here, like the 47 microfarad could go here, and let's see, that's the ground. The other one can go over here somewhere, and you can do that too. I kind of like keeping everything centralized because it makes it easy to troubleshoot in the event of a failure, but yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do here at that point. But we're off to a good start. Okay, so here's what I've created. Basically what this is a terminal strip, and you've got the positives soldered to the terminals, and the negatives all bridged together and share that terminal there. And then I've got a nice empty spot here on the chassis where I can just run some hardware through and everything will mount up nice and happy. Now I could come down here and drill a hole here, but then the problem of it is that the output transformer sits right adjacent to that, and I don't want to drill through it. And because it's riveted to the chassis, I don't want to have to deal with that mess. So I can mount it up here like that, and then we can just run our wires to it, and we're good to go from there. So I think that's really what I'm going to end up doing, is just drilling a small hole and then mounting this thing and wiring it up. Then once we do that, I'll just go ahead and replace the remaining coupling caps, and then we'll turn it on and see what else it needs, because I'm pretty sure these melty globs of what used to be capacitors ain't going to be right. Alright, so we got our hole drilled and chamfered. Nice clean spot on the back side there. We'll just mount this guy up, and we should be golden. So there it is, secured in place. And so now I can just run the wires that I need to the appropriate spots and attach the ground, and we should be good to go after that. And then it's just recapping the rest, which is in, oh yes, and a new line cord too. And then we should be good. Okay, so here it is, all wired up. We've got our ground, we've got our 20 microfarad line and our 240s, and I did have to, as you can see there with the heat shrink, I did have to extend a couple wires, which is not uncommon. But this makes it easy for troubleshooting because I've got 3 convenient test points there to check voltages if a problem arises, rather than having to wade through the spaghetti mess here. So this, in fact, is that part of it's done. I think what I'm going to do is briefly turn it on and just see where we're at before we go too much further on this. Okay, we've got our dim bulb tester hooked up. Saw a little bit of a light there, so the filaments are lighting. We'll see what it does now. I wonder if the condenser is grounding out. Yeah, we've got no action. Interesting. Oh, we have something there. Let's see. Maybe I'm just an influence on it. Let's put an insulated knob. Yeah, it's Kogo. Trying to put this on. Alright, I need 2 hands. So here's a little bit of weirdness. As far as I know, this is supposed to be isolated from the chassis. Now, when I apply my meter to measure the resistance between the two,
people will start living in those units within 6 months. Kogo News Time is 9:02. Your traffic and weather next.
Interesting, huh?
Never paint your home again. Contact Advanced Exteriors Rhino Shield. AdvancedExteriors.org.
Give me the VIN.com. It's paying top dollar for your car, truck, sports car, exotic. I told my buyers, let's get them bought. Right now is the time to go.
So I wonder if something is supposed to be grounded here. I don't think so, though. Maybe a decoupling cap or something. So attaching a jumper to chassis.
And we're on call 24/7, 365 days a year. And our drain clearance service is just $80. So nice, I said it twice. Kettle Air Conditioning and Plumbing. GOETTL.com. We do things the right way, not the easy way.
You and your kids
Interesting, huh?
for enough stress.
Sure does make it work a whole hell of a lot better.
If you're an SEC accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now.
But when you remove that connection, it just loses all sensitivity.
55. That's 800. 5455.
Buckingham Palace is so far quiet about a stir being caused by Prince Harry.
Royal family watchers in Britain and around the world are getting an eyeful in a new book written by Prince Harry.
Alright, so as I was working on this, putting the insulators in, I wonder if I missed something. Like there was supposed to be a ground strap or something that went to one of these. I don't know. Something's getting hot. Ooh, that capacitor's leaky. That's really warm. Ooh, so is that one. The one to the output tube, though, that one's still cool. That one's cold too, but these couple here are pretty leaky. Let's see. Let me take the volume control out the way again. Oh, there we go. There's our decoupling. I just didn't reconnect it. I clipped it out of the way. There we go. I clipped it out of the way. That was our decoupling to ground right there. I bet you if I just tack solder that back in place for the moment, that will be good.
Brazil, but pro Bolsonaro,
Yeah, so that
who is
that decoupling is supposed to go to the antenna coil there, which then connects to the tuning condenser there. So I clipped that to move this stuff out of the way, and I had forgotten about it. So we just need to renew that connection, and we'll do that with the new caps in place, and then we should be good to go. Because that makes it, that restores the sensitivity in operation. So, yep, one silly little thing I had forgotten there is that 4.7 meg, and that decoupling cap needs to go to the antenna coil there where I have the alligator clip, as it was before. Had to go back and review what I had done, which is the handy-dandiness of video. So anyway, now that we know it runs, on with the recap. 3 down, 3 to go. It's amazing how much more roomy it gets in here once you start taking the old caps out. Okay, we got all the paper waxies out. Yeah, I know I didn't put heat shrink on all the leads and everything like that, but it's spacious enough. Everything's away from everything else enough that I'm not worried about it. Everything's tight. It's not dangling there. This is my own personal radio. It's not a customer radio, so if it was a customer radio, I'd probably do that, but I know what I'm doing for what my purpose is for it, which is just to put it on the shelf and enjoy it for me. So now it's a matter of replacing the AC line cord, and then we'll plug it in, dial it in, and we'll be good from there. Alright, we'll see how long the camera mount holds out while I change the cord on this thing. I'm not going to hold my breath. I've already clipped it out. So let's unsolder the switch side. Usually the switch side is the negative, or the neutral. So if you're putting a replacement cord on it, try to use a polarized line cord and let the neutral feed the negative. That means that there's less likely you're going to get a serious shock, because these were AC/DC, meaning they could be operated either way. You'd reverse the, if you were on DC, obviously you'd have to reverse the plug in order to get it to work. But if you were on AC, you could turn it one way and have 120 volts on it, on the chassis, and you could turn it the other way and it'd be relatively safe. Relatively, not completely. So let me just feed what I need here. That's about the length that I need for that. We'll pull this in a little bit more, make our knot so that it won't pull out. Make our knot. Give it a good yank. All right. Making sure that's reaching over there. It is. It could be a little bit more in my favor. Let's feed a little bit more through. That's better. Usually the neutral will have a white stripe on it. We just tin that, and then tin the attachment point. All right, there's that. Let's trim this up a little bit. And again, we'll tin this in our attachment point, which is the switch. Nice, quick, good solder there. All right, the wires aren't taut, they just got enough slack in here that it works. And that should be it. I could put a knot on the outside, but yeah, maybe I will. Just because I don't want to push any of those resistors in. That might cause an issue. So now we got a knot in both directions. That's the way that we want it. Great. Let's fire it up and see what needs to be done left. All right, we got a fresh line cord on it, dusted the chassis. Let's see how she runs now. And yeah, I know some of you are thinking, well, he didn't replace all the micromold capacitors. Well, the thing runs, so I'm just going to leave them in there until they fail. They're not that high a failure rate on line operated sets. They are so on high voltage sets like TVs and transformer operated. I'm going to put some cleaner on that in a minute.
It's not because you can save $90 on a new pair, although that...
These earbuds are so comfortable, and they will not budge. Trust me, whether I'm playing a little golf, running around playing...
There's usually something parked here right at the top of the dial.
Price of other premium audio brands. It's no wonder they're everyday earbuds have over 50,000 five-star
All right, let me
Now's the time to check them
tweak
out for
the
yourself.
antenna.
Go to buyraycon.com/Chad today to get 15%
See if we can
off
get a little
your
more
Raycon
out of it
order.
at the
That's
top end.
buyraycon.com/Chad to score 15% off.
Yep.
Buyraycon.com/Chad.
Should be our oscillator.
Claremont Mesa, watch out on the North 805 at the 52. Got a fender bender sitting in the center.
There's some stuff going on between Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson.
About middle of the dial.
I think we got to look into that. I don't think he's playing this week. The market's telling you it's going to be Tyler Huntley, 6.5 point spread. Lamar just said I'm out for the final 2 months.
It's about as good as it gets already.
Weekend, the group making stops in El Paso and Yuma to meet with law enforcement officials, community leaders, and nonprofits that work with those who are seeking asylum. University of Idaho students return to campus Wednesday. Classes resuming after the winter break that saw the arrest of the man suspected in the murders of 4 of their classmates. A new rules package will be voted on by the White House by the House tonight. The chamber will vote on concessions House Speaker Kevin McCarthy made to conservative lawmakers who were staunchly opposed to his candidacy. Critics say McCarthy gave up too.
El siguiente segmento es...
For some homeowner headaches, we fix together. One is our heating rejuvenation, where we down by performing 6.
All right, yeah, time to get some contact cleaner in there.
Some ideas for what you're.
Much better after a little CRC.
They say that we do what we said we were going to do, and we do it when we said we.
This thing's good, man. Let's button it back up. Well, here it is all back together. She's warming up right now.
This winter. Get protected, and if you have to, get tested. More tips at covid19.ca.gov.
I can almost get KFI. Which inside this building is pretty remarkable.
And the reason
You have to reapply sunscreen every.
Yeah, it's pretty sensitive. So, I like it. It'll be a shelf queen, get used once in a while. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. More stuff to come. Gonna fire up that predictor once we get through with the vertical problems and then continue on with that. So anyways, more stuff to come.